Welcome in. We are live for the Lever Up Your Life show, where I bring on guests to share their strategies and secrets for leveraging their knowledge, resources, and contacts to lever up their life. And super excited to have you on, Rachel. Honestly, you should just start off by, telling people what you're doing these days.
These days, yeah.
Yeah.
So, offering hard money right now with Rain City Capital, and still have a couple projects going. Have a couple rentals, house hack a duplex. Have a pending sale in West Virginia for a house over there. Just that kind of stuff. Local realtor in Spokane.
Local. Can you say that you're a realtor without saying you're local? Or is that a requirement?
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. So actually we met when I was virtually wholesaling in Spokane and was trying to sell a 0% interest seller finance deal that was like what, just down the street from a flip you did?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's funny. All right. So what I really want to dive into and talk about is what it is you've been doing with trailers and mobile homes. Kind of talk about what that's like in Washington and how you even got into that. I mean, for context, like I spent a couple of years wholesaling, right? And in Florida, it's probably the least cliche state in the entire country for mobile homes. Like you have legit mobile homes, they'll sell for 200 or 300K, like fairly regular here. But even I was taught like mobile home in a park, not a deal. Nobody wants it. Nope, move on. Not a deal. Nobody will buy that. You're done. But it seems that you've found that as a niche. So like, how did you even get into that? Did you know somebody who was doing that?
No, so I kind of took a gamble, but I my first couple of years of real estate as a realtor, I was taking any transaction that I could. So I did a lot of mobile home sales for buyers and sellers, just helping them facilitate their own sales. And there was one park that had 22 units, and she sold her trailer with me for $70,000, and it was 2 beds, 2 baths,
In a
and
park or with land?
in a park. Yeah,
For 70 grand? Really?
yeah. Yeah, and so there was one across the street that was pretty junky, and she was just telling me the story on it, saying like how the park is so terrible, the people in the park are awful, nothing sells in that park. Like she was astonished to get 70 grand, and she said that the lady had been trying to sell it for 2 years for $2,000, and that she couldn't get it off her books, and so she was just using it as a storage unit. And I was just like, if she wants 2 grand, I'll buy it tomorrow. Like I just took the gamble because I was like, I just sold hers for 70. Worst case scenario, I clean it up, I sell it for 40, right? And so I met the lady at the courthouse the next day, gave her 2 grand cash, paid the excise, paid the transfer fee. For context too, when you're transferring mobile homes, it's $150 at the courthouse. It processes like a vehicle would, so it's not like an actual real estate sale. It's more like a vehicle. And so it's really cheap to just transfer them. And so I met her, transferred it all over, gave her another week to get all of her stuff out. She didn't. And then I ended up putting like 20 grand into it, and it was worth like 40, but I ended up just subleasing it. And so in the park rules, it says that you're not allowed to sublease. So I kind of took a gamble on that too. And I just went ahead and did it. And I was like, the worst thing they can tell me is no. And so I just did it and rented it out. The first lease that I had on it, I had her at like $1,250. Park rent was $350. So I was cash flowing like $900 a month. They were really high maintenance people, and quickly turned them over when their lease was up and increased it to $1,500. And since then, I haven't had problems with that unit. But yeah, it was
crazy.
Ride.
You haven't, so man, got a lot of questions. All right, let's just go back to buying it. So obviously it's basically like a vehicle title, right? What was the all-in like roughly closing costs on something like that?
Like $300.
Dang.
Yeah, it's like $5 for every 500, or maybe it's $15 for every 500 for the sale price. So it's like $50 in excise tax, and then $150 to transfer it.
Do you have to do any like diligence on making sure the mobile home title is clear, I guess? Is there like a process, or you just show up and you're like, okay, you sign the title?
Yeah, you can't put liens on them, like outside of mobile home financing. And so that's the only way there would be a lien on it. But it would just show on the county record, just like a house would. So I did go on Scout and I looked and made sure that it was, clean and clear. But if they have the title, because even like with a vehicle, you don't get the title until it's paid off. And so like they're going to order the payoff when you sell a trailer. Yeah. Like a loan on it. And so if it doesn't have a loan on it and she has the title, it's pretty clean. Like a contractor can't go file a lien against you.
Yeah, that's interesting. One of the things I learned, so I managed a mobile home park in Michigan for a while. And I don't know if it was just a short period of time or whatever it was, but we had so many problems with title. Like they're like, nah, I mean, it's people living in a mobile home park. Like a lot of them don't want anyone to know that they exist. They're like, I'm burning my title. I'm throwing it away. And in Michigan, you can't just like file to get new titles for mobile homes. So it was like once somebody did that, dead water. You're not even allowed to move it because it's not yours. Like it's crazy. Yeah. Insane. But
I've had a couple people lose title here, and in Washington, it's just $60 to go to the courthouse. You get it same day.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's much better. In Michigan, it was literally like, nope. Sorry, you're done. No more titles for you. So that's good to know. With the people that you're renting it to, like, you haven't had problems with them making sure they take care of the unit? Are they responsible for utilities?
Sort of. So I pay park rent. Water, sewer, garbage is included with the park rent. So they only pay the electric. I don't charge pet fees. I don't spend a lot renovating the units anyway. And so I kind of rationalize it like, okay, if I have to re-renovate it, it wouldn't be more than a couple $1,000. And then their security deposit's like $1,000. So, I don't really care. I would rather get top tier rent than charge $50 per animal. And then they lie or they say it's a service animal and then you don't collect that.
Yeah, that's fair. So when you sell these things, like, have you sold any of the ones that you've done, or have you kept all of them?
One pending. That one I just.
So yeah, you literally signed docs on that like last week, right? Or the PSA.
Yeah. I signed the PSA a couple weeks ago, and then it should close end of the month. They're getting financing on it. It was just it's still like a really good cash on cash return, and I could have just held on to it, but it had the most equity in it. So the other ones are only worth like 40, 50,000. That one I thought I could get like 90 for it. We are pending at 92, so
not bad.
Yeah.
What's your all in on it?
12 with the purchase price.
See, yeah, that's okay for cash on cash.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if I kept it too, I mean, I could have rented it for 1,800, but I really wanted 2,100, and that's hard to get for a trailer.
Yeah.
But in the 2 bedrooms that aren't worth very much are renting for 1,500, 1,600. It's hard to be like, oh, this one's the nicest one I have, and it's gonna rent for an extra $200. Like, that's just.
What is this like? Is the mobile home park like nice? Because that seems like a lot. $1,500.
Yeah, most of them, if they're over 700 square feet, I charge 16.
Dang. Are most of these people getting like Section 8, or are they just?
No, I don't. None of them qualify for Section 8. So I legally have to accept Section 8. But once they go through the inspection process for Section 8, the unit just doesn't qualify. And I can't make repairs on the trailer to get it to qualify just because it's not a good return. And so, I don't take Section 8 for the units in the trailer park at this moment.
Fair enough. So
I do, but they don't.
I mean, right. It's like, it's like I'm accepting FHA financing on a house that's never going to get past inspection.
Yeah.
Got it. I guess, what do you like? So I would assume that you've built up a little bit of a reputation for this. Probably people are sending you these deals because correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not really a lot of other people buying these, right?
No, I do get a couple of deals a month sent to me, just trailers. Sometimes it's, their sphere of influence. They know someone who wants to sell the trailer and they're friends with me. And so they're like, oh, hey, do you want to buy it? And usually they're more than what I'd be willing to pay. But I do get them. And there's a couple of wholesalers in town too that just send them my way because they don't want to deal with them because they can't wholesale them. And so if I do close on them, I'll just pay a referral fee.
Could you technically wholesale one of those? Like, yeah, I feel like there's nothing stopping it. It'd probably be easier than a house wholesale, right?
It is, and I have done a couple of them, but it is really funky because if you are just doing like a cash sale and you're just going to the courthouse to cut out the costs of going through escrow,
Yeah.
you're having the end buyer like pay you and then you're paying the seller, which is like weird. Or you can just double close. And because it's such a like small transaction fee at the courthouse, like if it's going to be less than $500 and you're making 5 to 10 grand on the wholesale fee, fine, whatever.
So you double close at the courthouse?
I've done it. Some of the sellers have been like a little too sketchy to like, be at the courthouse with the buyer.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I've done both though. I've done where they are both in the room at the same time, and I'm just like, don't talk about price. Just
yeah, we all know what those conversations are. So yeah, this is my partner. Oh, that's funny. When you get sent these deals, I mean, obviously, like there's price to consider, but what else are you looking for? Like, is there like, oh, well, I mean, I would assume, like, do you care about it being pre like 1972 for the HUD stuff or?
So 76, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
summer
76.
76. So anything in like 1975 that was June or after will actually be a 1976 just because of the way that vehicles are manufactured. They like in 2025, right? Like once we hit June, it's going to be a 2026. It's not going to be a 2025. So I don't care as long as the price is right. And then I personally don't want to hold any rentals outside of my one park just because I have such a big monopoly on that park that when I increase the value of one, it's going to increase the value of all of the rest. And so I just want to hold those long term. And I wouldn't cash out on any of the other ones. I'm just cashing out on the one just because it's 90 grand.
That's so funny. That sounds like the exact model of like Zillow and stuff where they were buying all the same homes in the same neighborhood to make like better comps for their other deals. And you're doing that in a trailer park. Have you ever talked to the owner or no?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We talk all the time. And so he actually sold me a couple of the other ones too. So we went through the eviction process on people that weren't paying and then just transferred them over to me. Charged me like $1,000 for some of them. I think the most I paid him was like 3,500 for one. And yeah, he was just transferring them over to me because he was evicting them, reclaiming title, and then transferring them to me.
Yeah, that's actually, man, I can tell you because like when I managed the park, it was a huge headache. We were like desperate for people to come in and buy them and fix them themselves. It was just like, we will literally give you this. If you own a park and you have a lot that's not making lot rent, it's like a killer. It's like having it's the exact same thing if you own a 12 unit apartment complex and one of the units was just sitting empty, but it's not as easy as renovating a unit. It's kind of it's a whole other thing. That's crazy. Would you ever try to buy the park from the guy or no?
I talked to him about it too. Yeah. And so he just doesn't have anywhere else to put his cash. And I can't really argue with him because it's like, what do you do that's going to get the same return or better than what he's getting right now? And so, yeah. And then he's wanting like kind of a ridiculous amount. Like he's wanting like 1.2 or something for 20 units. And I think that's just a little.
Wow. Yeah,
high.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
That is a lot. That's like, yeah. Dang. Yeah, that's kind of funny. He's willing to sell the houses for $1,000, but wants, I don't know what kind of cap rate, but it seems like it's lower than a 12.
I know. And so I've told him before, like, give me the opportunity to compete. Like if you end up deciding to sell it, but I don't know that I'd be able to. And if I did, like, I think there's a lot of opportunity because it's all under market value. But at that point, I would probably sell off the trailers because going rent for trailer parks in Spokane is like 600 and he's charging 350. So it's pretty below market rent.
Dang, 600 for lot rent?
Yeah. Some of them are 8.
Yeah, we had a freaking, I mean, this was 20, 2020 or 2021. We were like 350 in Michigan, and that place was a dump. Like that place was really not great. So I guess that makes sense. Kind of to switch the script a little bit. I don't. Maybe there's a lot of people who follow you who don't yet know that you're in hard money now, and I guess like you seem to have already been doing really well on the realtor side, and slinging deals in trailer parks on the side. Why get into hard money?
Yeah, just wanted more of a repeat clientele basis. Like I think with real estate, it's really hard unless you're working with investors to build that long-term relationship where, people are buying houses every 5 years. And so even if it is a
Yeah.
long-term relationship, it's really long. And so I think it takes a lot longer to build the business in real estate where you're getting, clients that are repeats every single year versus with the hard money, it's like 1 year and then you're really getting repeats.
Yeah. I think it took me my first repeat. I think it was maybe 4 months or 5 months after we did our first deal, if that. Like,
Yeah, smaller transaction timeline.
yeah, it's actually interesting. I have a good realtor friend here in Tampa, and I remember we were hanging out or chatting or something, and he was like, "Yeah, he's been a realtor for a while, like 5-10 years." And he was like, "Yeah, it's so nice. Like I'm finally like getting some repeats." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." He's like, "Yeah, I've had 2 repeat customers." I was like, "Oh my God, bro! Like that's insane."
Yeah, no, I'm going on year 4 and I've had 1 repeat.
Yeah, that's that's brutal. So, from your perspective, like spending all this time as an agent, and were you mostly doing retail or investor, or was it kind of a mix?
Mainly retail. That's another part of it too. Like even if you can get a good investor, they follow the deal, not the realtor. And so there's not a lot of loyalty to using one specific realtor. It's just like if you find me a good deal, like yeah, I'll use you, and then you'll get the list back. And so if you're not constantly finding deals that make sense, and then at that point, if you do find a deal that makes sense, why aren't you wholesaling it?
Yeah, I mean seriously. Yeah, that's a pretty good point. So from what you've seen as you're like in your time as an agent, and now you're getting exposure into the hard money game and doing some of this yourself, what do you think are the biggest things that people just don't know about it that they should, or you feel like, wow, even I, after all this time, didn't realize these things, and this is what people should know if they're doing deals
For hard money or real estate?
for hard money?
Hard money? Oh gosh, I don't know. I think, geez, that's
We
a
ask the hard questions.
so loaded. Like what aspect of it? Like that they just
um,
don't.
okay, so for instance, like when I got into hard money, I had borrowed hard money one time, but there was so much I didn't know that I didn't know, and now I'm like, in hindsight, this was just obvious. Like some of the things are like, whoa, I didn't know to record mortgages it was like $1,500 extra with title work.
Yeah.
Like, you never see that on a quote. Or I didn't realize that like there was such a thing as like having renovation funds that you're not getting charged interest on, or
Yeah.
like I didn't know loan modifications were possible where you could increase the renovation budget post close in some circumstances. All of these things that like I didn't even know there were brokers. Like
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was a thing. So I'm curious, like what you've been kind of like dipping in for about a month now.
Just about a month. Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely the non-Dutch interest. Like that's something I didn't know existed until I got into it. And most people that I talk to don't know that it exists. So yeah, just paying interest on what you've used instead of the whole amount that you're borrowing, it does make a big difference. And so that's definitely something new for me. And then I think just like the nuances with the lender will charge what they think you'll pay, not necessarily what's best. And so
Mm,
when I did my first couple of flips, I got charged 4.5 points and I just paid it because I didn't know better. I was just like, oh, okay,
whoa.
like, that's just what money costs. Like, okay, I'll factor it into the deal versus like, Kiavi might be 1 point or we can be lower, right? Like it's kind of a nuance because it's based off of what investors willing to pay, not necessarily what the going rate is.
Yeah. It's a weird mix because there's some people who are like, hey, they've got their go-to guy. They don't even answer the phone if another hard money lender calls them. They don't care. And if you tell them, hey, this is what going rate is, this is what points are, this is what I can do, they're like, okay, that's it. And then you got other people who are like, I will call 20 lenders and I don't care what they tell me. I'm going to go with the lowest amount. That's it. Front line. Yeah, it is interesting. What do you think just generally about, so let's say somebody's newer, they get sent terms and they're trying to figure out what their best option is. Like, what should they be looking at? What should they care about?
For their first one?
Yeah, first flip. Somebody's like sends them an email and is like, all right, this is what I can do.
Yeah.
What do you pay attention to?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I think for me, it was the least amount down, but I don't think that's necessarily like the way to look at it. Like, I don't think it should be leverage in the beginning. I think it should just be getting a good deal with good terms in the beginning. And so, yeah, I'd look at the interest charge, the points, and then if there's room for getting better terms, if you continue to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. One of the things that when I started out, I like didn't think was a big deal was the term length. I was like, dude, 6 months is plenty of time. But then we do 12 months and like, hey, I've been in this game for a little over a year now. And it's like literally half of the loans that I did are coming up on 12 months. I'm like, I don't know what you guys were doing. I don't understand. But it's crazy to me the amount of people that I hear, they're like, 6 months is plenty of time. I'm good. And this is the cheapest. So I'm all in. Well, the reality is like, doesn't really matter who you get your loan from. Extensions are typically 2 points for 3 months. And so I've witnessed quite a few people like, hey, no, I want that. I want 1.25 points rather than 1.5 points. And like, I don't care if I can save 1/4 point, I'm down with it. And then they cut off 6 months on their term. And then they're paying an extension fee at 2 points, another extension fee at 2 points. And that for me was one of the biggest things where it's just like, dude, mitigate your risk, take the longest term you possibly can. Like 12 months is great. And that's still not enough for some people.
Yeah, no, my first one, I had it at 6 months and then I did 3 extensions, I think, at a point each. So I had to pay an extra 3 points. So it ended up being like 7.5 points.
Oh my gosh. What ended up happening that your deal got extended like that?
Yeah, it was just not selling and I didn't want to take a loss. And so I was like, okay, spring market's coming up. Like, we'll just wait it out. It's fine. It was just honestly, I bought pretty high when the interest rates were low. And then I tried to sell high when the interest rates were high. And it ended up selling pretty low.
What is something that somebody can take away if they're looking at their first deal? Like lessons learned from that was your first flip, right? Or no?
It was. Yeah.
What would you have done differently? Like in hindsight, now that you know what you know, as far as getting into that deal?
Overestimate rehab, underestimate ARV, and buy low. Buy lower than you think you should, because that's where you make the money. It's on the buy side.
Yeah, you're better off doing 2 deals a year that are great deals than a deal every month that's marginal. I had a guy who's newer, and he called me yesterday, and he was like, "Man, I just like think I'm doing something wrong. Like I run the numbers on all these deals, and every single time I'm 50K under what the wholesaler is asking." And I was like, "Yeah, man, welcome to real estate." Like the funny thing too is the guy who did so the guy who was the contractor on my first deal, he told me originally like, hey, 40 grand, 40 grand. We ended up at like 66K for the reno and I lost money on it. And what was funny is like, he's like, hey, 3-1, 900 square foot house needs everything. What do you think the reno is? I'm like, probably like 70 to 80. And the same guy who like underquoted me told him like, yeah, 55. And I was like, bro, 55 for a full cosmetic and mechanicals? Like that's tough. I just see a lot of people. I don't know. What is your opinion? What percentage of people do you think lose money on a flip? Like we'll say people who aren't like killers, like people who are doing 5 or less deals a year. What percentage of them do you think like actually make say more than 5 grand?
At least half. at least half are like making less than $5,000, and they're just like
think so?
continuing to do it. Oh yeah. I don't know. I don't know the stats. That's just kind of like my feeling. Cause yeah, you have to buy low and the prices that are getting put out are just not low enough. And people don't want to wait and they get FOMO and they're like, okay, I'll just buy it. It'll be fine. Like if I make 10 grand, cool. Like that was my projected profit on one of mine.
Really? 10 grand?
I still took it because I was like, oh yeah, it's 10 grand solid. No.
Did you make 10 grand?
No. I lost like 10 grand. It was crazy. No.
My first deal, I underwrote at 25K profit. And I was like, I mean, that's pretty good. Like if I split 25K with my partner, it's like 12 grand. That's like, that's solid. And now I'm like, yeah, if it doesn't underwrite at 40K plus, like don't even consider it. Because underwriting at 40K means that probably you're making like 20, 25 when you actually factor in everything. And then you get taxed on that.
Yeah.
So you really got to make sure it's worth your while. We are starting to come up here on time. So I'll ask you a few questions here to wrap it up. So if someone, your primary market is Spokane, right? So someone in Spokane, who's like the type of customer that you're looking to work for, or the type of person that you're looking to work with? And then what can they expect to get out of Rachael Rhodes as far as real estate goes?
As far as real estate, yeah, ideal client, like hard money side, is an investor who does 5 to 10 a year and is looking for competitive rates. Our local lenders that have been here for a long time just are really overcharging for everything. And so I think just breaking into that would be great.
Yeah.
And then real estate side, just kind of working with clients that I want to work with and not taking every client that I can, because that's kind of why I ran into, it was great. It worked out, but I did a lot of transactions for $500, $1,000, $2,000. Like it was high volume, low commission, and I'm not willing to do that anymore. So
the life.
yeah, looking to help people that I want to work with and want to work with me.
That's awesome. So if somebody wants to work with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can call me, email me. I'm sure you'll have my contact info in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, writing notes, add that. You can absolutely make that happen. Well, awesome. Rachel, it's a pleasure to have you on talking about trailers and hard money. It's a great Tuesday for me. And we'll have this posted on Instagram if anyone wants to go back and watch a replay. So thanks for joining this week on this week's episode of Lever Up Your Life.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Peace.
Bye.